Fort Taber Fort Rodman Historical Association, in conjunction with New Bedford Cable TV, is bringing you a series of interviews with local citizens that we are labeling Heroes Among Us. These are individuals who have experienced the trauma, the confusion, and the drama of war. My name is Joseph Langlois. I'm president of the Fort Taber Fort Rodman Historical Association. Those seen in this series are ordinary individuals who were confronted by extraordinary events that demanded at times more than they may have thought they were capable of enduring. They experienced situations that were impossible to imagine in civilian life. Some of those interviewed participated in historic military engagements, while others were often involved in conflicts that were kept from the public for years. We will not be discussing strategies or outcomes, but rather take a more focused, a more personal, and a more intimate account of events. We've decided to commit ourselves to this work, as history is often easily forgotten, distorted, or placed in well-written books, once read, that may never be taken off the shelf again. Most often, the roles of thousands of seamen, soldiers, airmen, and officers are often lost in time. Our hope is to preserve their memory, record their experiences, and allow others to learn from the bravery, the courage, and the indefinable spirit that mankind is capable of during periods of intense stress of the type that is often encountered during war. Hi, we're here at the Fort Taber Fort Rodman Military Museum, and we have the opportunity to speak with Alfred Sylvia, a New Bedford man who served during World War II aboard a destroyer in the Pacific. And he's going to tell us his life on board that destroyer, as well as his life in the Navy just prior to being assigned to it.
That's the Deutsch. I'm a plank owner. I was aboard her when they were commissioning her. She was a good ship. And the #1 5-inch gun was my battle station, right here. #1. It is what it is. Oh, you were a good ship. There's my buddies. There's my buddies. Used to go out drinking beer together. Oh boy. I'm the only survivor. God bless America. We're going back to 1942. Draft board sent me notice to report, and I did. And I said to myself, they're going to send me to Boston to go in the service, in the Army? I'm going in the Navy. So I did. I went to Boston, got sworn in, and in 1942, off in the Navy, I got sworn in and off to Great Lakes in Chicago. Boy, that was a 30-day training. And after that, I was stationed to Washington, D.C. They sent me to the V-12 program, and that was an officer's candidate section. And guess who my lieutenant was that I worked for? John D. Rockefeller III. And he was a great man. He gave me correspondence to type up, and I did. And I put it on his desk. He comes back over and he says, Sylvia, he says, I'm sorry. He says, I neglected to tell you how I wanted my name signed. I didn't want the Roman numeral 3. I wanted a 3 and a small RD. Do you mind typing it over again? No, sir, no problem.
American Legionnaires march again as the United States calls on all men between the ages of 45 and 64 to register for selective service. Approximately 13 million men in this age group, which embraces all aliens, are affected. Color, race, or creed is no excuse for non-registration. While this age group is not liable for military service, information about their occupational skill will be of great value in organizing America's expanding war production. Mayor LaGuardia is among those who sign on. In Washington, many notable men who frequent the Capitol building fill in their papers, including Mr. Nelson, the war production chief, and Mr. Roosevelt, who alongside the question, employers, writes, "The people of the United States of America, an all-out effort to rocket her war production figures."
How was Washington for you?
Washington was terrific. They couldn't sign me to any barracks or anything like that because they were filled up. So what did they do? They gave me names to go to, civilians. And guess where I ended up on? Massachusetts Avenue in Washington, D.C., right off of DuPont Circle. And I couldn't believe it. The house I landed into belonged to, at one time, Admiral Moffett. I says, wow. So anyway, I was assigned there, and I was assigned with 3 other sailors. So 4 of us were in one room with 4 beds, and we paid $20 a month for rent.
Not bad.
Not bad. And I received, I think, I'm not sure, but I think it was $80-some a month, being 3rd class yeoman. That was my pay. And I was assigned to, and I says, I don't believe it, to the V-12 program. And who was in charge of it? Commander Tucker. And who did I work for back home? John Tucker was my boss. I said, son of a gun, what else? It's an amazing thing. But anyway, I made out like a bandit. Every day I'd walk to work over in Virginia because we had a difficult time getting transportation. So I'd walk to work, no problem. And guess where I used to go to for my lunch at noontime?
Well, you've told me, I know where.
You know where?
I know where.
The Pentagon. Wow, that was something, I'm telling you. It was something.
But one day that all changed when you got a letter.
Yeah, I got a letter, all right. Sylvia, you're being transferred. Oh my. But before I was transferred, I would bring correspondence all over the offices. And one of them I was sent up to was Commander Gene Tuckey, Tunney, the heavyweight champion. I said, oh my goodness. But he was tough. I'm standing there with correspondence. Hey, sailor, come on in here. Yes, sir. He was tough. But anyway, I got to shake his hand. Then came the big final day.
Yeah, this was a brand new ship.
Brand new ship, yeah. I was there when they were christening her, yeah, the USS Deutsch. Then I went aboard. I said, my goodness, this is something. I was assigned below decks, all new to me. But anyway, we went down on what they call the shakedown. So what that means is I was a plank owner because I was there when they christened her. And today at my age, I think I'm the last member. Because there was, at that time, there was 325 men aboard that ship. 25 were officers, and the other 300 men were men, enlisted men and officers. I was a yeoman for the engineering department. Okay. Yeah.
But you did have another duty.
We're all assigned quarters for battle.
That's right.
And my assignment was the #1 5-inch gun. I was what they call a fuse setter. I had a little hole there that I'd sit down there, and then when they started to fire, I'd set the fuse setter there. I couldn't get the word out. Of the shells.
What were the roles of the other men that were part of that team for the 5-inch gun?
There was 2 at the on the port side was the elevator of the gun.
Okay.
And on the starboard side was the sighter.
Okay.
And I was a fuse setter.
American sea power, probably the greatest naval force ever assembled, heads for our first land penetration of Japanese territory, the Marshall Islands, center gate in Jap Fortress Pacific. Timed with new blows at northern Paramashiru and southern Rabaul, the invasion of the 32 Marshall Atolls stands as a masterpiece of amphibious strategy. For 75 days, our land and sea-based bombers blasted the outer islands. This was the first battle mission for many of these aircraft carriers, but our later tactics depended on their softening blows. This was the first round in a finished fight.
The Marshall Islands became a lagoon large enough to hold a fleet. So that was our base. Okay. From the time on that we were in the war. And we'd go out from the Marshall Islands, and we'd go out on patrol. Our duty was to screen the carriers. The duty was screen the carriers and protect them. In other words, if any torpedoes came, we were to take them.
Put yourself in between it.
That's right. But our duty was good. We were sent to Iwo Jima to help the Marines land. And we ran into a Jap picket ship. It hit us 3 times, but we sunk it. It killed 3 of our men and wounded 13 of us, of which I was one of them, but we got rid of it. Then we stayed there to help the Marines. At night we would fire the star shell fire. It would light up the area so they could fight the Japs.
Could we just go back a little bit? One of the shells that hit the Deutsch hit the 5-inch gun.
Oh, yeah. It hit us on the port side. And Alcock, well, every time we went to general quarters, he'd say, I gotta get off this ship, I gotta go home. We got hit there, and all I heard out of him was, oh, and he fell on me, and I felt my arm warm. I had a little shell through the arm.
He was lost.
Yeah, he was lost. That poor guy kept saying in previous general quarters, he'd say, I gotta get off this ship, I gotta go home, I gotta get off this ship. He got off all right, he was gone. He fell on me, oof, that's all I heard. Now we've gone to join the fleet, and we're going down toward New Guinea. And we ran across a Jap, 5 Japs in a raft. They were on a Japanese Betty that was shot down by our flyers. But they were in those rafts, in the raft rather. And there was one in the front with a machine gun, and he was come up like this. And our gunner's mate with his machine gun, he let him have it, that was it. He fell in the water, and the others went in the water, and they all started to swim away except one. So we threw him a life raft, line. A line. He wouldn't take it at first, but then suddenly he went like that. He got it under his arm. We pulled him in. We found out that he was wounded. His left arm was hanging, so the doctor operated on him, but he died. And they put him in a sack with a 5-inch projector in there, and they're going back. That was it.
Navy films show units of Admiral William F. Halsey's Third Fleet battling the heavy seas of a typhoon. The storm hits the fleet while it's withdrawing from a carrier strike against the Japanese home island of Kyushu. Mountainous waves whipped up by gales that reached an intensity of 138 statute miles an hour damaged battleships, cruisers, aircraft carriers, and destroyers.
Now you had a very frightening moment in a typhoon.
My ship was taking 52-degree rolls. Boy, I was really, she'd go over like this, and I'd say, come back, and oh, to the port, starboard side, port side, starboard side, port side. In that storm, we lost 3 destroyers that capsized, all because of Admiral Halsey's dumb weather report. Those 3 destroyers that we lost had pumped out all their ballast to fuel. We fortunately weren't in that line, so we didn't bump our ballast out, pump it out. We were lucky, but those 52-degree rolls were something, let me tell you. We lost the Spence, the Monahan, and the Hull, over 800 men. We only saved 75. There's different reports on that. They say 79 and all that, but I had the report of 75.
That was a poor decision that Halsey made. And he was criticized for it.
Oh yeah, he was. He was. We were fortunate. We hadn't pumped our ballast out, so we were fortunate. But that was something.
Although damage to planes and ships was extensive, only 1 life was lost in the storm. Hardest hit of all the ships is the cruiser USS Pittsburgh. Over 100 feet of her bow was ripped off by the high winds, but the watertight compartmentation kept the ship afloat. 60 of the crew had living quarters in the bow section, but all were rescued when the deck plates buckled and the bow ripped off. Seaplanes on the stern deck are badly damaged. 1 remains on its catapult launcher while others are knocked over and wrecked on the deck.
Tell us about the incident with the aircraft carrier Princeton.
Oh, that was when the fleet went down to the Philippines. But instead of being right off the Philippines, they went up and around and back on the opposite side. And that's when they ran into the Princeton. The Princeton was captained by an officer from Fairhaven. He was the captain.
Al, it's beginning to sound like New Bedford men ran the war.
But anyway, we were right there when that son of a gun, he came out of the clouds, dive bomber. He dropped his bomb and took off, and that was it.
Did the Princeton sink, or was it able to make it back to port?
We sunk it.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to sink it. Yeah. That was something.
How many men were saved from that?
I don't know, but there was quite a few, quite a few.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about being the yeoman. Did you have to type the letters for, let's say, the captain of your ship when he was, let's say, writing to families about the loss of men?
Oh yeah, I had to type it up.
Was it difficult for you?
Well, it was. It was.
Yeah. I would think it would be.
Yeah. It was something. You bring a lot of memories back, I'll tell you. Franklin aircraft carrier was hit by a bomb, and we saw this figure fall off the, well, it looked like it fall off, he jumped off, I guess, and hit the sea. And he's swimming like mad. And we're waving, waving, waving. We see you, we see you, we see you. You know why he was swimming?
No, well, shocks?
No, he had no life jacket.
Oh, okay.
So, but he was a good swimmer. But he's swimming toward our ship, you know. We're telling him, hey, okay, we see you, we see you. But anyway, we got him aboard ship. He was a doctor.
He was the doctor on board the... Oh, okay.
And he was half loaded.
Oh, no. Oh. So he might have just tripped and lost his balance.
Right. And we said, hey, we saw you. He says, I know. He says, but I didn't have any life raft. He said, that's why I'm swimming toward your ship. So anyway, we got him aboard ship. Finally, the day came when I was eligible to go home. But because being a yeoman and first class, they had me up for discharge. So my executive officer, who later became the captain of that ship, of our ship, he says to me, Sylvia, he says, I need you. He says, I'll make you chief. I said, sir, I'm 3.5 months away from discharge. I'm going home, sorry. He says, I'll make you chief, I'll make you. I said, no, I'm going home, that's it. And I did. He shook my hand, he was almost crying, really. But you know, he later became captain of that ship.
He must have been a good man, good sailor.
Oh yeah, he's good man. But boy, was I glad to get off there. Whoo-hoo.
How long were you on the Deutsch?
From August the 7th, 1943 to June the 5th, 45. Yep.
It's a long time to be in the Pacific. You saw an awful lot of action.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You're sort of lucky to be alive.
I am. Yes. I am. The Dutch later was, they said sold, but they didn't sell it. They gave it to Argentina. And Argentina fought the war with her against the British.
Falkland Islands War.
Yep. And what happened to her after that, they finally got rid of her, sunk her. So that was the end of my beautiful ship. My ship earned 8 battle stars, 2 stars from the Philippine operation, and 8 battle stars for the action in the Pacific against the Japanese. And boy, you're having me go back a long way.
It is a long time ago.
It is, it is, it is.
What is your feeling about the Japanese at the present time?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I really hated them. I really hated them until the war had ended and we were in Tokyo Bay and our ship was sent down to demilitarize some islands. And that's when there was an accidental explosion, killed our 17-year-old seaman.
Yep.
And that's when I changed altogether from the Japanese people, because when they found him, that happened at 10 o'clock in the morning. When they found him at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he was still alive. All he had on was his socks. He was naked. And he kept, the chief from Lexington, Massachusetts, found him and he says, "Hey, Chief," he says, "I'll be all right." He says, "We'll go out together like we have been going on Liberty, and we'll have some beer." But at 4 o'clock, he passed on. But this is when I changed my attitude toward the Japanese. The Japanese people were very nice. They had them go up to their house, and they built him a coffin. Put him in the coffin. And that's when I changed my attitude toward the Japanese people.
You were a different man when you got back to New Bedford, huh? Yeah. I don't think a person can go through all of that without looking at the world a little differently.
I walked from the training station, you know,
Sure. You used to be down near Pearl Street.
Pearl Street. I walked from there up to Glover Street. When I opened that door, my mother was there. She went bananas. But she's the one, boy, I'll tell you, her prayers kept me going. Yeah. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
What you have just seen and heard is an account of a local citizen as he experienced the trauma of war. The goal of the Fort Taber Fort Rodman Historical Association, in conjunction with New Bedford Cable Access TV, in bringing you this interview, was not to glorify war, but rather keep the memory of these brave individuals alive as they experience these hellish events. We must remember the price of freedom and the sacrifice that these individuals have given for the people and the country that they love. Their courage serves as a role model for individuals of all ages that, when confronted with stress and seemingly insurmountable problems, that we must face them boldly and with courage. Finally, we hope to demonstrate that in this small corner of the nation, we are filled with individuals who have behaved heroically and have contributed significantly to the history and the well-being of our nation. We want to thank you for watching Heroes Among Us.